Hey everybody, Roxabox9 here with an EDH Commander deck tech. So today we're going to go through my current Drana Kalastria Bloodchief deck, and I prefer her the most of all the EDH Commander Mono Black generals, and there are quite a few. She is my favorite for a bunch of reasons. What does she do? She's a 4/4 for 5 flyer, which is pretty solid vampire. X and 2 black, target creature gets 0-X on turn, and she gets X+0 till end of turn. This makes the deck have a lot of options. The first option of which is Voltron, and that's what we'll tackle first. Let's just point towards the general land base. Let's get that out of the way. So looking at the general land base, starting off, we have 27 snow-covered swamps. I use snow-covered swamps for a very distinct reason. It's because of a card called Extraplanar Lens, which works basically only in your favor if you are the one with snow-covered swamps at the table. So there's no other real problem with running snow-covered swamps. There's no real negative to them. They are the same thing effectively as regular swamps 99.9% of the time, except in this case, Extraplanar Lens works in your benefit and almost never in anyone else's. In terms of Voltron, since that's the first thing we were mentioning, Drana herself works really well as Voltron because it's very easy to, if you ramp up with mana, to dump mana into her, remove your opponent's creatures, including ones that are indestructible, and also making her power very large. As an evading flyer, she is very, very difficult to deal with. She can swing for 21, no problem. So what are some things we're going to use to assist her in getting this off? The package that we have for Drana, we have Shizo Death Storehouse. It's basically a swamp, but it can give a legendary creature fear. Fear makes her more difficult to block. Lightning Greaves, of course, Haste and Shroud, classic staple. Lash Writhe makes her very big very quickly. It's very easy to ramp up in this deck, and it can make her that much more powerful. Nim Deathmantle actually had a combo originally, but this really gives you a way to get back creatures, including her. It also gives Intimidate, another pseudo fear. And the last card is Rings of Brightheart. This is important because for an additional 2, you can copy her ability. So if you scale up her ability, you can hit 2 things at once and make her that much more powerful. But that's not all that Rings of Brightheart does. In addition to helping the Voltron, it also makes the many Planeswalkers we run that much more effective because for 2 additional mana, you can double any Planeswalker ability. Since we run quite a few Planeswalkers, including Sorin Markov, who's a major staple, deals with life gain decks, gives you life, and removes your opponent's utility. Final, Sorin's Vengeance ties in with Sorin, of course. Liliana Vess is an amazing tutor and kind of sits around the board tutoring. It's very few people remove her right off the bat. Liliana of the Dark Realms, her first ability gets us our swamp ramp and keeps us hitting consistent land drops. She also acts as form removal, and of course her ultimate, which is not that hard to get, is that much more powerful in a deck where we want to focus on swamps. Karn Liberated, I believe, wraps up our package here. Brings a Brightheart for 2 mana and a -3 to exile 2 permanents, gets out of hand very quickly. And this Planeswalker package serves us very, very well. It's great with her Voltron, and it's great in general. Speaking of swamps, what's the big deal with swamps in this deck? Besides for the 27 that we have, but we also have a whole package of lands devoted to making sure we ramp up properly. Some lands that we have that work together very well. We start off with Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. It's a legendary land that makes every land you control a swamp. So if you have cards that are based on swamps, for example, like we were saying, Liliana of the Dark Realms ultimate, each swamp can tap for 4. Well, if all your lands are swamps, this is fantastic. That much more powerful is if it's with Cabal Coffers, which adds 1 swamp for each swamp you control. These 2 together get out of hand very quickly. And of course, since this is Commander, we don't want to run just 1 of each. So Vesuva lets us can copy Cabal Coffers, which 2 Cabal Coffers is insane. It also allows us to copy Urborg if we see our opponents have some form of land destruction, that much harder to remove. Deserted Temple, because Cabal Coffers tap 2, tap it, add, let's say, 10, for example. Deserted Temple can take 1 of that tap to untap Cabal Coffers and do again, which means 7, and then another 10, or whatever it is, for example. And Petrified Field, in case someone removes too many of our awesome lands in this package. Since it's so crucial to get our ramp up, Petrified Field is a fantastic way to get any of our lands, but particularly Cabal Coffers, back from the grave. But of course, we need to be able to get Cabal Coffers, so let's do that with Expedition Map. which lets us go right to get a land card if you don't have Cabal Coffers in your hand or Urborg. This is the kind of card that can go grab it for you. And that's the Swamp package. In terms of ramp cards, Mono Black has a lot of great ramp options, but we're going to use some rocks to get us up there. Soul Ring, fantastic commander staple. Basalt Monolith, this is the old art, but pretty much a 3 mana tap for 3, and it costs 3 to untap it. Otherwise it doesn't untap. But it's a huge mana rock. I probably would consider Thran Dynamo instead. Extraplanar Lens, as we said, this is the card that whenever a land with the same name as an imprinted card tap for mana, it gets an additional 1. So if you have Snow-Covered Swamp imprinted here, only Snow-Covered Swamps tap for 2. Crypt Gas is one of my favorite cards of all time. It's a huge card in this deck. Being able, for so cheap, to be able to have an Extort in multiplayer Commander is huge, and gives you that Swamp ramp. Nirkana Revenant, same thing, mostly here for the Swamp ramp. Caged Sun is the final major ramp card in the deck. It also gives all your black creatures 1/1, and it only works for you, which is definitely worth its cost. So those are our major ramp and swamp ramp packages. Now, Mono Black wouldn't be a deck without a lot of card draw, so we need to make sure we have Reliquary Tower as a support card, because decks that don't have a lot of card draw don't need to put this card in 99% of the time. But decks like Mono Black and like Mono Blue, of course, or various kinds of decks that have a lot of draw, Reliquary Tower is a necessity. In terms of our tutors, we have Demonic Tutor, searching our deck for anything we need. It's a great card. Beseech the Queen, since we have so many swamps and so many ways of getting lands, Beseech the Queen will quickly become very relevant very quickly, and it's a fantastic tutor option. Praetor's Grasp is not really a tutor since you search your opponent's library, but since we have such powerful ramp, it's very easy to go steal things like Eldrazi, or even take your opponent's Soul Ring early in the game. There's a lot of cards that this card really can do amazing work with. Increasing Ambition, tutor once, shame on me, tutor twice, shame on all of you because you lose. This card is fantastic tutor. Runescar Demon is a recurring tutor, and it's a nice big beater stick. In terms of card draw itself, or card draw engines, which we want to be able to draw consistently, we can tutor for what we want, but we also want to be able to draw consistent advantage throughout the game, and Necropotence is the king card. If this card lands early in the game, it's very difficult for you to be, very hard to deal with you, because you quickly become the most powerful card advantage layer on the table. This card remains in play. Phyrexian Arena is a staple, giving you consistent card draw. Bloodgift Demon, same thing. Let's use our 40 life very well. Sign in Blood, it's a one-time use, but 2 for 2 is pretty good. Ambitioner's Cost, 3 for 3, still pretty good. Promise of Power, 5 for 5, and you lose 5 life, but again, 5 cards is great, and if you're worried about your life total because it's later in the game, you can also just get an enormous flyer, which works well with our card draw and tutoring. One particular engine that works with Skull Clamp is Reassembling Skeleton. This card can come back every turn, and so 3 mana, draw 2 cards is a consistent problem for your opponents to deal with. It's really fantastic. And speaking about recursion, we also have things like Volrash Stronghold, a consistent way to get back your creatures. Beacon of Unrest, steal your opponent's creatures from their graveyard or artifacts. It goes any graveyard and you can use it over and over again. Advantage in Commander. Sheoldred, Whispering One, gives you consistent advantage all around. She's amazing. Ashnod's Altar, being able to sack a creature to generate mana this turn, can give you a very easy way to boost, especially with our zombie token pile that comes from things like Grave Titan. These two cause a soft lock on the field. It makes it very difficult for decks not running black to play effectively, especially because it's so easy to sack, get back, sack, get back. Very powerful card and very powerful way to control the field. Solemn Simulacrum, exactly the kind of card you want to have for a sack outlet. Puppeteer Clique, incredible card. It's great that you can sack it and bring it back from the grave to redo its ability again. You could sack it to persist it at instant speed to steal an opponent's creature. It does so much that you want to do. It's a fantastic card. Other sack outlets that work well with things like that, we have things like High Market, protects your commander from tucking effects, being able to sack it to gain a life and also tuck it away. Phyrexian Arena gives you that ramp and sacks your commander away. Dictate of Erebos and matching partner Grave Pact. If you're sacking cards like Resembling Skeletons over and over again, it will act as a way to clear the field. Fantastic form of control. Some spot removal I like particularly is Tragic Slip because it deals with things that are indestructible. Ashes to Ashes moves 2 non-artifact creatures and deals 5 to you, but for 3 mana it's incredible advantage. Withering Boon, no one sees this coming. 2 to pay 3 life to counter a creature spell. Saved me too many times to not run it. Taking your opponent's creatures is also pretty sweet. Things like Enslave. Mimic Vat, yeah, your opponent's things have died. Well, don't let that stop you from bringing them back over and over and over again for advantage. And what mono black deck would be complete without a lot of Wrath spells? Yes, we have tons, and because we like to keep our Wraths and Wrath-like effects going, we want to make sure that we have something like Bujiju Shelter's All to prevent anyone from peskily countering our huge late-game or mid-game effect. It's not hard to ramp into any of these. Black Sun Zenith, minus counters is huge. Dealing with tokens, dealing with indestructible, dealing with hexproof, hits everything and is card advantage since you can use it over and over again. Exsanguinate, if you ramp up enough, you can easily swing the entire field and win the game in a one-shot kill. Oblivion Stone, this card's been rising. It hasn't gotten any better or worse in Commander. It's still a staple. Great card. Mutilate, if we have lots of swamps, you see what I mean. Living Death, this card you can decide how to play it most effectively. It works so well in so many situations. In Garruk's Wake, this is a new card. I like that it hits all Planeswalkers you don't control and all creatures you don't control. This deck has a lot of creatures and a lot of Planeswalkers, so we want to make sure to hit our opponents, and the 9 mana is not nearly out of reach. All is Dust is a nice way to keep our artifacts alive and sweep the field. And Decree of Pain gives you massive card advantage and destroys all creatures. It's exactly what we want in a Wrath spell of multiplayer Commander. And just some final cards to wrap up the deck, because we want to have some more niche specific cards. Leyline of the Void and Relic of Progenitus both are fantastic cards for dealing with graveyards. I like that it gives you that pseudo card draw and locks your opponent's graveyards down. You want to be the one controlling graveyards. Helldozer, very powerful card, very easy to do multiple times a turn, and can quickly make you the political person on the field. Grave Titan, what mono black deck would not run Grave Titan? Steel Hellkite, this card is a pseudo Wrath. Sepulchral Primordial is more of a win more condition, and for fun, but I personally love it. Meocean of Nice Reach, this is evil. It makes your card advantage unbeatable if it goes off. Becomes a very powerful win condition. Profane Command, who doesn't like a flexible command that gives you everything you want in a commander deck? And don't forget the Fear can make Drana swing for the final blow. Yawgmoth's Will, win more, being able to replay your whole graveyard. With the amount of ramp in this deck, I am not joking, this card gets out of hand. Temporal Extortion is a card I put in more for fun. It more often than not gives you an extra turn for 4 mana. Very few people in a multiplayer game are willing to pay half their life. Choice of Damnations is another fun card, especially mid to late game. Your opponent has to make a very difficult choice. And again, Commander is at least partly about fun, and this card makes, for me at least, a lot of fun. At the end of the day, Mono Black is everything that you want in a Commander deck. It has incredible Voltron power, it has incredible drawing and tutoring power, it has incredible board control and politics power, it has incredible amounts of ramp to rival Mono Green easily. It plays very, very consistently. There are very few archetypes that can hands down defeat it, and in multiplayer Commander, it usually requires multiple decks working together to manage all the threats that this deck can generate. So yes, it's a deck that I find this one is fairly budget as Commander decks go. It doesn't have things like Damnation in it. It doesn't have any kind of fetch lands. I tried to make it as budgetary as possible while still doing everything I wanted it to do. If you guys have budgetary options that you think would fit in really well, I'd love to hear about them down below in the comment section. Mono Black Commander is a fantastically versatile and powerful deck, and I recommend that you guys try it out. Proxy it up, sleeve it up, give it a shot, put in some of the cards that you think I might have missed, And of course, let me know what cards you think I missed down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please tap the like button. And if you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe. As always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.